Welcome back to the Old Bald Guy's shop. I got my friend Randy here, and we are building a project for him today. We are going to build a bed. It's going to be a double bed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and we're building this out of poplar. We've picked up a bunch of 8-quarter poplar. We've planed it already. Now we're going to run these pieces through the joiner, true up an edge, run it through the table saw to square up the other edge, and then we'll start the construction. This bed is going to have 4-inch tapered square legs on it. So we've got to lay up some pieces of this 8-quarter. They've been planed and cut to the proper width. So now that we have taken the clamps off, this is all glued up. There's just a little bit of unevenness here where there was a little bit of bow in the wood in a couple of places. So we're going to run this through the joiner, get one side of that trued up perfectly. Then we'll run it through the planer so that this dimension is the same as this dimension, and we'll have a perfectly square board to cut our legs out of, and then we'll go to the next step. So we're going to taper this leg. I've marked how far below the side rail of the bed frame this is going to go. And so we're going to taper this to just about a 1/4 inch below that mark. And we're just going to use a squared up piece of wood that we're going to clamp to the saw. Then we'll adjust the angle on the saw until the laser beam lines up with the amount we want to bring this in at the bottom, which is about 3/4 of an inch. And then a 1/4 inch from this point, we'll clamp this piece to this piece, and then we'll make our cut. we just clean up this joint a little bit so that there's no lip at all where the saw's overlapped. Okay, get a clamp on it.
Come this way. Middle's fine, or
One in the middle. In the middle. There you go. And the other one right here.
careful there. But you can feel that draw down there.
Yep. So that is the headboard piece.
Looks good this way. Go.
We want to set these down completely flush so they don't hold the wood out.
Oh. Then we have to iron it again.
Huh?
Then we'd have to iron it again.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Set them just a little bit low because we're going to sand this board. So we made a mistake here. We put a clamp on this wood without having a clamping block underneath it. This is poplar. It's pretty soft. We made a divot in it. So we're going to fix that with some water and an iron. I've got a wet paper towel here. I put that on there.
That almost looks positive.
Yep, it actually raised it up above the level
Let's see if we can get a good picture.
of the wood. You can see that. So now we'll let that dry and we'll resand the wood and that will all disappear.
Yeah, right there's the mark. You see it?
So now that he has sanded this after we steamed it, no sign of that divot left. It's completely gone. Now that all the sanding is done, we're going to reinstall these sides. We made ourselves a set of brackets here that are a set of supports to go on the table to support this because our table is not nearly big enough. So our basic framework is complete. The side rails just bolt onto the legs, which are glued and screwed to the head and foot pieces all the way around. And then we now have to make some pieces that will run longitudinally there to support the slats that are going to support the mattress. So we've set up our tapering jig, and we're going to taper this center support that goes down the middle of the bed so that it can accommodate a brace piece underneath it. You'll see how that goes together. Now we're going to cut our taper. So we've installed the slat supports on that center support on the bed frame. And we've cut all the slats to 5/8. We just ripped them off of the leftover 8/4 material, cut them to length. We're going to round these over just so they don't have any sharp edges on them that could catch on sheets or whatever. And then we made spacers. We calculated out the total length here and the number and the amount of space we needed between each slat, and we made spacers that width that will sit in there in between these slats while we attach webbing woven in between those slats. We'll staple it on. You'll get to see that. And then we'll move on to the next step, which will be making the headboard. So this is where we are with our frame so far. We've got our tapered legs. The frame is complete. The slats are done or nearly done. We have all of our slats made, but you can see that the slats have sharp edges and ends on them, and we don't want, since the mattress is sitting directly on these slats, we don't want any sharp edges that can catch on the mattress or on sheets or on your fingers when you're making the bed. So we want to smooth those edges over with a round over like this. So we're going to do that on the router table. We have a 3/8 inch radius round over bit set in there. And I'm going to do this with first a climb cut. So I'll be going in the direction that the bit is turning. That reduces tear out. You can get away with that with a small bit, making a small cut. You don't ever want to use a climb cut on a large bit. It'll grab the workpiece and sling it out of your hand and break something and injure you. But on a small cut like that, you can use a climb cut. So we'll go with the direction of the bit, and then we'll come back the other way to clean up that cut. And that gives us a nice smooth cut. Probably won't even, for this application, even have to sand that. We have our spacers cut and everything properly spaced out. Now it's time to weave the strapping material between the slats, and then we're going to staple that down. So yesterday we took the one remaining board of poplar that we had, cut it in half, and then split those pieces down the middle with the table saw and planed them. So now we have boards laid up that we're going to make the headboard for this bed with. We chose a piece that had a lot of color in the poplar. There's a lot of color variation in poplar, so this is what we're going to use, and we have marked these for biscuits. So we're going to cut biscuits into this board to keep them all straight. There is a bit of bow in some of these, so that'll have to be pulled out, and the biscuits will help with that. And then we also marked them 1, 2, 3 on the joints so that we can line everything back up where we want them to be after we've cut the biscuits. So off to biscuit cutting. All right, so we've glued up the first board here, clamped it and let it dry. We have to do one at a time on this one because there is some bow to these pieces of wood, and we've opposed the bow on each piece, so it counteracts that bow, pulls that bow out of it. And trying to get 3 glue joints all done at the same time just doesn't quite work. So using a block of wood with some painter's tape on the bottom side to clamp across the joint to true up that joint at the edge. Okay, that's real good in the center there. Okay, we'll have minimal sanding. This piece is too big to go through my 13-inch planer, so we have to get these edges as true as possible so that there'll be minimal sanding. So I have everything sanded for this headboard, but the headboard is 3/4 of an inch thick, and we want it to look like from the sides and the top that it's 1.5 inches thick without having a big heavy headboard. So we're going to cut off 1.25 inches from either end, and we're going to cut off about 3/4 at the top, and we're going to turn those pieces over and attach them, glue them underneath, and that'll give us the thickness we want without having a heavy headboard. My little battery-powered saw has a 5-inch offset, what makes it convenient for setting this up. Okay, we drilled holes in the headpiece of the frame, and we drilled them the same size that we need for our threaded inserts. Now we've clamped it to here. We have a backing board clamped underneath, and then we'll just use this as our drill guide to get a straight drill hole. So we bought some high strength bolts yesterday because they were the only thing we could find in a 2 3/4 inch, so that it's the right length not to go through. The only thing left to do is to put a block across here so that you have a stop to set that on when you're assembling the headboard after it's all done. So we are using Rubio Monocoat for a finish, and this is a 2-part system. This is the hardener, this is the finish. This is not James Bond's Martini, so this is stirred, not shaken, at least according to the directions. I don't work an area bigger than about 3 square feet at a time. And it's a one-step process. Once you put it on, wipe it off, wipe off all excess. Have a lot of rags handy. Okay, there's 15 milliliters. Squirt that into our mixing jar. That won't go far, so I'm going to pull another 15. And you have about 4 hours to work this stuff before it hardens up in the cup here. 3 to 1. So we'll use 10 milliliters of the hardener. Okay, I think we're there. Don't put that lid on tight, just set it on there. So we'll just pour a little on here, not a lot.
Has that got you?
And we just take our scraper, spread it around. So the last little finishing step on this, all the finish is done. It's about ready to go to Randy's house. We're going to put some of these little felt feet on the bottoms of the legs because this bed is going to be used on hard floor rather than carpet. And the bed is all ready for a mattress. So this project is all complete. Join us next time in the Old Bald Guy's shop.